is that the allegations were not that he failed to clean devices. The allegations were that the government didn't like the way he cleaned the devices. We had expert witnesses that showed that these devices were sterile, and we had one expert, Dr. Garcia, who testified that the practices that Dr. Kumar used were widely used throughout the country, even in her practice. What could happen now is Dr. Garcia could go to jail. Is any other doctor who did this could go to jail, and that's incredibly troubling for the practice of medicine if we want medicine to be adequately delivered to the people of this community.
All right. Do you believe that Dr. Kumar received a fair trial?
I think that there are substantial issues that were present at trial. A few of them you may have seen from some of the motions that we filed. For instance, the government took a cell phone from one of their cooperating witnesses that they did not provide to the defense. That cell phone has a substantial amount of information on it that was withheld from us. And obviously we have a federal agent in this case who deleted his cell phone, something somewhat unprecedented. Special Agent Kriplian wiped a cell phone which is in violation of government policies. We don't feel like we were able to address that yet, and we will certainly do so post-trial.
What was challenging about, that nitpicking that you called it? What was challenging about that in court?
Well, let me be a little bit more specific. Dr. Kumar used something called high-level disinfection, which is approved by the CDC. The government tried to put into evidence and did put into evidence disinfection protocols that would require gas sterilization. Gas sterilization is something you cannot do in a doctor's office. And so what the CDC has said is that you can do high-level disinfection. Dr. Kumar has effectively been acquitted for something the CDC says you can do. And when we tried to admit the CDC records into evidence, the judge said, those documents don't come in. We believe that when the government tells you you can do something, especially when you're a doctor, you should be able to do it.
Well, speaking of which, how do you feel about, the 6 counts where the jury was not unanimous in the decision that Dr. Kumar, that those counts will be a mistrial?
Yeah, those counts are certainly a mistrial right now. There's an open question as to 2 of them where there wasn't a unanimous decision finding him guilty on all of the dates. Here's an important part. First, those mistrial counts, we're not likely to see those result in any sort of retrial. I don't expect that. Healthcare fraud, in order to result in a conviction, needs to prove a scheme, okay? And what that doesn't mean is that we take specific procedures done by a physician and we cherry pick from a set of those procedures and then we allege that those were incorrect. This isn't the second guessing of a physician that should occur. The government must prove a scheme. And the jury's verdict here shows us that Dr. Kumar was not involved in a scheme. Why? Because they looked at thousands of procedures. They then had an expert identify 20-some patient files. From those 20-some, they chose 9. From those 9, they only got a jury to agree on a couple of them. A couple of them that were cherry-picked from a larger set. Imagine if we looked at your worst day at work in the last 10 years and we judged that over a month-long trial. What would happen in your case, right? That's what we're facing now in America.
Now, at the end of, they tried to, of course, I think they would always do that, would try to say he needs to be detained pending sentencing. The judge denied that. How are you all feeling seeing that the judge denied and let him be out until sentencing?
Yeah, that was the right choice. I mean, the prosecution tried to claim that Dr. Kumar would be sentenced to 100 years. Congress disagrees with that statement. The federal sentencing guidelines disagree with that statement. The reality is that the offenses, while every federal offense is considered a severe offense, they would never result to that amount. And I think the judge, in saying that bond will continue, is making a decision that any judge in this country would make, and also determining that Dr. Kumar should have a chance to be able to raise some of the substantial issues that he's raised before the court, before a sentence is determined. Justice is not done yet. We're at a new phase, and we intend on asserting all of our rights.
Why do you think that jurors couldn't come to a unanimous decision on 8 of those counts?
First, sitting 5 days in a relatively warm room on a beautiful day is a tough thing to do. I'm grateful that any American citizen would be able to do that. And so I don't want to sound ungrateful at all for the jury's efforts. But the fact that it took reasonable citizens to look over 46 counts, almost 50 pages of jury instructions, and try to come up with a decision tells us that we're not dealing with the types of crimes that we used to see 20 years ago. We're dealing with allegations that are so complex and so confusing that average American citizens really struggle with them. And because of that, we feel that there's some things that may not have been completely understood by the jury. And this case, from the beginning, always should have been viewed in a different circumstance. Recall, the Board of Medicine determined that Dr. Kumar didn't do anything wrong. The people who know and are supposed to govern these types of things agree with us. And we certainly will raise that on appeal as well.
Mr. Chapman, I know you said that you guys didn't get what you want, and I'm not asking you to kind of speak for Dr. Chapman.
Yeah, Dr. Kumar.
But just how is he feeling right now? Not just with the guilty counts, but just kind of moving forward as well.
I'm sure he's happy to tell you.
Yeah, obviously feel very disappointed, but at the same time respect the process, and also firmly believe that I served every patient like a family member. Never turned anybody away, and did the right thing actually. Obviously the process of justice is, something that it's hard to understand. As far as science is concerned, we are confident we are on the right side of the scientific facts, and we intend to appeal and try to get the justice.
Dr. Kumar, again, my follow-up question to that is just kind of before the actual verdict, just what was going through your mind, because it seemed like you were kind of deep in thought. Were you overwhelmed? Like, how were you feeling in that moment?
Yeah. So obviously a lot going through my mind, was a busy practice, and confused as to what went wrong. Always did the right thing for the patient. Patient comes in, they tell you the symptoms, and you do the best you can. And then after the fact, being analyzed in a court of law, things like that, it's obviously overwhelming.
And let me offer this really quick. It's very important to this case. A few facts are very important to this case. First, every patient consented to receiving a biopsy. If a physician is receiving a criminal punishment for accepting the will of a patient, we have real big problems in this country. Every single patient consented, and they knowingly consented. The other issue is biopsies were done in Dr. Kumar's office that we proved during trial discovered cancer. In fact, in one patient, if you would have listened to the expert witness the government called, that patient would have actually died of cancer, and it wouldn't have been uncovered. We have a very serious problem with the criminalization of healthcare in this country, and this case absolutely proves it.
You talked a little bit about Medicare fraud and having to find a scheme. I know those were some of those counts that were still up in the air. Can you just be clear what counts were not were still up in the air?
Oh, the specific numbers, I'd have to look them up, but there were 8 counts that the jury said they could not agree on. 2 of those counts, they agreed on some dates, but not others. There's an open question right now at the court as to those 2 counts, whether they are convictions or whether they would result in a mistrial. Our position is that for all of those healthcare fraud counts, the government had an obligation to prove that Dr. Kumar devised a scheme to get money. Now, I want to address that because Dr. Kumar only got about 8% of his total income from the practice from this type of procedure. That's very important. But in terms of everything that he did in the community, hysteroscopies were a very small part. But here's the amazing fact that was most important throughout this trial that was not allowed in. The cost of doing a procedure in the hospital is over $40,000. And the copays associated with that are very expensive. The cost of doing that procedure in Dr. Kumar's office with the appropriate equipment and the way that he cleaned it, certified by the CDC, is much, much less, resulting in very little reimbursement for a physician. Dr. Kumar saved the Medicare program hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and this is the reward that he gets.
Given the decision that was made today, are you all, worried in the least about sentencing? Are there some factors you would like considered?
Well, I think that we have a lot to do before we get to sentencing. We need to address some of these legal issues before we get there. But I will say that when it comes to the device counts, the cleanliness of the device counts, we feel that we'll be able to put on a sentencing case that shows the court that Dr. Kumar was doing everything that he reasonably could have done as an in-office physician to adhere to the standards of practice. But also, one thing that is never at issue in these trials and never allowed in is all of the good that a physician does for the community. I mean, you're standing right next to a gynecologic oncologist, one of few, who is one of the most highly trained in the United States, and is an expert at doing these sorts of procedures. What will happen right now is that he will not be able to practice for the foreseeable future. But the important part is here, how many lives would have been saved by Dr. Kumar? How many doctors are going to act differently seeing a case like this? And what's going to happen to the skyrocketing cancer rates in this community as a result of something like this? That's very important.
One last question for me. Do you have anything that you want to say to those people that came forward ahead of the trial and say they had concerns? Is there anything that you want to say to those people?
This big part of our closing argument was when the government wants to take a very small slice of the picture and analyze it, and then only pick the people who are a little bit more scared of government interviews and interaction, you start to get shifting stories in a case built on shifting stories. And I'm sure you all saw during trial, we had a lot of witnesses that changed their story ultimately to agree with the government's picture. What I will say is that they are put in a very difficult position. That is a tough position to be in as a witness, being called in front of a court. We appreciate those who stepped forward and did the right thing and told the truth. If there were people who didn't do that, we're going to address that in future parts of this case.
Chapman, my last
I
question.
want to get to Mandy real quick. Yep.
Dr. Kumar, if I may ask, do you have any other message you'd like to share with your patients if they've been following this trial or watching tonight even? So just any message you'd like to get out there?
I could say a lot, but I want them to know that I always did my very best to serve them. And the risk of cancer is real. They know anytime they step foot in my office, I was always kind to them and treated them like family.
There was a doctor in this community who offers free services to patients, said that he referred hundreds, if not thousands, of patients to Dr. Kumar, and each time, each one of them was appropriately treated. This trial was not about all of those patients Dr. Kumar took care of and treated as an expert physician. This was a very, very twisted version of what we believe to be the truth about Dr. Kumar, and we look forward to continuing to bring that out. I will also mention that, as you all recall, the beginning of this case was built on one of the most significant false statements that I have seen in a case like this. Dr. Kumar was alleged to have done terrible things that were later dismissed by the court. A press release was put out with things that were demonstrably untrue. I think that had an impact. Certainly it did on the press, but that had an impact on people sitting in this courtroom in judgment of Dr. Kumar. And that's very unfortunate. We intend on addressing that as well.
So what is next for your team?
Well, we just had a bit of a roundtable to chat. I think we're going to figure out how best to approach these procedural aspects of the case. A bit more investigation and raising a few motions with the court. We feel that justice ultimately will prevail for Dr. Kumar, and we look forward to putting that case in front of the judge soon. And I think you had a question, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chapman, my last question. My last question to you is, 5 days, at one point, did you kind of think that, well, did you suspect that all these guilty verdicts would actually come after 5 days of deliberation? Because it didn't really appear that it's going to be this many guilty verdicts after 5-day deliberation.
I agree with you. Based on the way trial went, you wouldn't think that this would have been the result. But I will tell you, after doing this for a while, and as federal charges get more complex and difficult to understand, I've learned that I have no idea what's going on back in the jury room. And we know that we have the correct position. We know that we have the right facts. We hope that we were successful in convincing members of the public that those facts are accurate. If they disagree with us, we move on to the next level, right? That's just what we have to do. But there's a long line of appellate reversals in our history as a country, going all the way back to some of the most prominent cases in history. This is just going to be one of them, and that's what is in store for Dr. Kumar. He's strong enough to be able to take it, and maybe that's why this had to happen to him.
Looking back over everything, I know this wasn't the verdict you all were hoping for, but is there anything you all would have done differently throughout the trial?
Well, that's a good question. It requires me to tattle on myself a little bit, but I'll avoid doing that. I will say, and I didn't get a chance to do this earlier, but I have worked with one of the best trial teams that I've ever been with in any healthcare trial that I've been involved in. The skill and experience that Dr. Kumar personally put together to appear on this case, I feel did everything in our power to show the truth. And so I don't think that there's anything we would have done better. I'm just grateful for having been able to work with some very talented people and to fight on behalf of such a good physician.
Any last words, Mr.
Doctor, anything else?
Obviously, disappointed by the verdict, and will work towards appealing.
Anybody? No? All right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course. I appreciate it. It was good getting to know you all. Take care.